All right, I'm going to go ahead and start. Welcome, everyone. My name is Richard Capone. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Let's Go Learn. And today's webinar is Unlocking the Power of AI in Education. And this is a series. We're going to have 3 webinars in this series, and hopefully you'll enjoy them. There's lots of great things to talk about in AI. So I'm real excited today because AI is really a big issue. And hopefully if you're coming here today, it's because you want to learn a little bit more and you maybe want to share some of this with your own team members in your school or district. And so a little bit background on myself and Let's Go Learn. I've been an innovator my entire life using technology. Let's Go Learn started in 2000, and we were one of the first computer adaptive assessments before that term even existed. And back then, our first assessment, which was Dora, which didn't even have the name Dora, actually operated on a modem. But today I'm real excited because we're at another inflection point and AI is just dramatically changing how we're doing stuff. But I wanted to really talk to you today about some of the basics. So some of you are thinking, how do I get started? And so we're really going to start off with some AI basics and terms. I'm going to be talking about the prompt, which is a part of that, and then giving you 5 tips of what you can do in your organization to get started, right? And then I'm also going to show you a few different examples in Let's Go Learn, and are actually applying some different prompts and different things. And so that'll give you a little idea and hopefully tie some of the stuff we're talking about into action. All right, and then we'll take questions at the very end. We are CASE endorsed. That's something that's relatively new in the past year and a half, which means that CASE is the Council of Administrators of Special Educators, and they have endorsed our entire platform for use in special education. So I will be talking sometimes a little bit more on the special education side because I think that's one of the real advantages to our system. All right, so let me make sure we're good. Yep, people are in. I'm going to go ahead and start. All right, first of all, so what is AI, right? So it is basically a computer system that can perform a task that requires human intelligence, right? So it's not something like a lookup on Google, but it's something where you could really ask it a question and it really does appear to be intelligent, all right? Now, most of the stuff we see today is narrow AI, which is AI for a very specific task, right? So it could be autonomous driving, facial recognition, like knows how our phones recognize our face so fast. Its voice detection has gotten really good. That's because of AI. Fraud detection is actually really good nowadays too with your credit card company. So this is really narrow AI, and this is mostly what we're seeing today, okay? The difference is general AI really doesn't completely exist yet. Now, general AI is going to be something that, in theory, outperforms a human in every area. And so if you were chatting with an AI, you wouldn't know it was AI, essentially. But we're not at that level. Really, today, we're talking about narrow AI. And I think from a practical standpoint, that's what we should be focusing on. Okay, so that's some of the basics. Now, do you need to do anything? So first of all, I want to make a case. I know you're probably here, so you probably realize you do. But this is also something you could bring back to your districts or your schools to have conversations with your team. Because some people may say, oh, let's not worry about it. But I want to explain that we really do need to. Okay, so first of all, you can't get the genie back in the lamp. AI is out. And so your teachers are already using it. Some of your students are already using it. And at some point, someone will do something foolish. So I think it's really important to have policies in place and explicitly state stuff. You need to, have consequences, talk about deep fake, talk about fake audio files, talk about, some of this stuff is really important because this is where someone does something foolish. They get angry at somebody and they release something that they cannot undo. So I think we have to get this policies in place right up the get-go, tell students that there is consequences, they do something, it's important to do that. Containment isn't possible because right now, AI is free. Anyone can go to different sites, whether it's Claude, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's Gemini. You can access AI for free, and so it's important that we, as a result of that, know that it's here. All right. So what does GPT stand for? It stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Now I want to explain this because I think sometimes it's good to have some of these basic vocabularies, especially as you're all working together in your districts. You want to be able to make sure that everyone has the same vocabulary, right? And this is really important in an organization. So first of all, the first part, generative, generating content based on input from the user. So what this means is that you can generate content through language. So you could say, hey, I need, give me a list of the best restaurants in my area. Or I'm traveling to so-and-so and I need restaurants that have a good ambiance. So whatever it is. So it's basically generating content from you as you give it input. Now, what does pre-train mean? Pre-trained means that it is trained on a data set, which is basically the public internet. So our generative, the GPTs are trained on the entire internet, and it uses that pool of information to give it knowledge, give it information, all right? So it's important to understand. The next thing is transformer. This is the natural language processing model. And right now we're at 4.0 with GPT. And other companies have probably numbers as well as increments. So essentially that is the language processing model it's using. How is it looking at stuff? How is it interpreting it? So when someone says, oh, I'm using ChatGPT 4 or 4 Omega, that is what they're talking about, okay? Now, I'm going to get back to this notion of a GPT later. Right now, the general GPT is trained on all of the internet, and you could ask it information, and it uses the 4.0 model. All right, what about some basic terms? Okay, so first of all, here's some really good terms to know. What is NLP? It stands for Natural Language Processing. So one of the powers of the AI is that you can just talk to it in a sense, or you can type to it. It uses natural language. We don't have to be a coder to get information, right? We can just talk to it. So we call it the NLP. Now, different GPTs or different AI is better sometimes. You may say, oh, this one is too markety sounding, or this one sounds like a salesperson, right? Or this one sounds more technical. So, and you can control this, but we refer to this and how it's processing language. Now, be aware, it's not true intelligence, right? Right now, it's totally predictive. So if I said to ChatGPT, hello, how are you? It might say, fine, thank you. How are you doing? It is not really reflecting, oh, how am I doing? Like if you ask me, say, Richard, really, how are you doing? I might think, well, I'm a little tired. I think I drank too much coffee this morning. I'm a little wired. And then I'll say, well, how are you? I'm actually thinking about it, but GPT doesn't. It just is totally predictive. It says, statistically speaking, if someone asks you, how are you? What is the most likely response? It's good. And how are you doing, right? That is what it is today. So just keep that in mind. Now, with that said, that's why this next term is a real term, AI hallucinations. So this is when AI totally messes up and makes up nonsensical responses. So it's good to also talk about this because it is a real thing, and that's why there's actually a term for it. So when you are talking to your colleagues, they need to be aware of hallucinations, and that's a real thing and something we need to defend against. Okay. Prompts. So this is the last term I want to bring up. Prompts or prompt engineering, right? So this is really important. The way we get better results with an AI is by having good prompts. And so you need to be able to learn how to do prompts. You need to be able to guide your teachers so you have prompts, even your students. And there is something called prompt engineering, which there's actually a certificate for it. I'm actually going to talk a little bit more about prompts, but this is really important to understand that prompts are necessary to make AI effective. All right, so let's talk about the prompt in particular. So why are prompts and guidelines important? So they're really important for three reasons. One is data privacy, right? We want to make sure that we are ensuring our data for our students. We're not violating any laws. So it's really important that we have guidelines here, okay? Bias mitigation. If you do not have proper prompts and you ask AI to do something, it's just going to look at the entire internet. Well, the entire internet is not necessarily good. So we need to narrow it down to educational best practices. Maybe it's your particular state standards. So, but also there's biases in it we have to understand. So, we have to be able to mitigate that, and that prompts are going to allow us to do that. The final last thing is just transparency. By having better prompts, our responses are going to be more transparent. Otherwise, you don't know where sometimes things come from. Again, even ChatGPT doesn't understand where things come from sometimes, right? So what is a prompt engineer? So there's actually a certification you can get for this, and it's not a bad idea to say, hey, people in my school district or school who wants to get a prompt engineering certificate, right? So I think this is a good thing to talk about and encourage. It indicates a level of experience and expertise, right? And so it's a really, really good thing to do. So the next thing is I would recommend is you get a prompt committee, right? So talk to those people and say, hey, who's using AI? Who's really excited about it? We want to get a committee going so we can start having policies at our school or our district and make sure that everyone is using it safely. So get that committee to meet. Maybe initially it's some excited people who are already experimenting with it. But sometimes people are so excited don't think about the danger, right? So you also want to have that person on the committee who's, hey, that sounds great you're going and doing this, but what about this or what about that? And so again, that committee is going to start thinking about this, okay? I have 5 steps that I think you can take. And this tip sheet I'm about to give you, there's a QR code. You can actually scan that. And remember, you're getting a copy of the slide, so you don't have to take a picture right now. But here are 5 steps. Define how your organization can and cannot use AI. So I think this is important. And you may say we have a moratorium on certain things. We do not want you to do it in these areas. That's fine, but define how you think they should and they should not. Set up easy to find prompt guidelines and evolving prompts. So you want to create organization-wide prompts. So I'll give you another example. Let's say you want someone to evaluate certain materials or maybe evaluate an IEP. Some of your guidelines might be to, if you do this, don't have any student information in there, right? Don't have the parent's name, don't have the student's name, full name. Who knows? So prompt guidelines might be even guidelines for what kind of documents you can upload into an AI and so on and so forth. So this is important. The next thing is provide vetted resources for teachers to use. Rather than for them to go out and say, hey, I need a lesson plan that'll help me teach short vowel or do something project-based learning, you may want to have some guidelines. Say, hey, in general, we want materials that are vetted. Maybe you even have a pool of materials that's publicly published somewhere or certain organizations. Maybe you want it to always use Khan Academy. Maybe you want it to use, hey, when you find videos, try to default to Khan Academy videos. This is really up to you guys to decide, but I think it's really good to get this started, right? All right, the next thing is operationalizing or operational AI use by providing examples, right? So we need to have examples. We talk about all this theoretically, but on that, your guidelines, you want to go ahead and provide examples all the time. So, actually, sorry, one more thing. Set up initial and ongoing training and support. This is really important. People need to know how to apply this. So once you have that prompt committee meeting, the next thing to do is go ahead and set up, trainings for your teachers, support for your teachers. How do I do it? You want to go ahead and do that because they're going to need it as they move forward. All right. So let me talk about something else. Again, you can get this tip sheet. Okay. Sorry, this is a little aside. This is something else I just thought, how AI can be used in special education. So you can use this, scan this QR code. Here are the 10 ideas. This was something, it's a video that talks about using it in special education. I thought I would just throw this in there just because we're talking about guides. All right. So setting up your organizational prompt. So this is a really important thing to do this. You need to narrow your output from the entire internet down to what you think is good, right? So unbiased and appropriate for you. So this is some of the stuff you want to do. Right here is a sample intranet, right? So that's your internal internet. So this is something you should put on your organization. I would create an AI prompt / guideline intranet that you use at your organization. And I'm going to show this to you. But on it, you're going to start putting this kind of information, all right? So you're going to craft inputs and outputs for AI, essentially how to get accurate data interpretation. So this is the stuff you're going to put on there, right? Include how to narrow information down, how to protect information. All of this is really important. And this is what's going to go on that intranet. And I'm going to actually show it to you in a second. Okay, so right now I'm going to go to another page. So this is a sample intranet that I created, AI prompt intranet. And so the idea is your teachers would come here and you'd have your own and they would be able to say, oh, okay, I want to be able to create lesson plans or I want to be able to pull content from the internet. So how can I do that, right? Or here's another one we have for interpreting Let's Go Learn reports. I want to have AI interpret a Let's Go Learn student report. We actually created our own GPT, and I'm going to show this to you and explain this to you in a second too. So this is something you guys can access. SMART goals. I want to be able to have AI create SMART goals for me. So how can I do that? So anyway, so this is like I said, and you could add up. Over time, you're going to add 20 different ideas or items on this intranet site. Okay, so let me show you a couple. So let me just show you how this might work. So let's look at the lesson plan prompt. And this is really essentially just a Google Doc, something that your team has access to. So when researching lessons for me, use the California content standards, blah, 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 blah. Our school district uses science of reading principles. We're using Eureka Math maybe. So for special education, use high leverage practices from the CEC website. So you're giving us some guidelines. So the idea, if somebody is going to go to ChatGPT, a teacher, you're telling them, okay, come over here and paste in that prompt. And then you're going to say, I need a lesson, a project-based lesson plan for my class of 15 to teach decimal operations. How about some shop type lesson, selling items, etc. I'm just giving an idea. I mean, you could also just ask for it to come up with whatever it can. I have a 50-minute class. Okay. So there we go. All right, so now it's generating a lesson titled Decimal Operation Shop Simulation, 50 minutes. It lists my standards out here. What do I need? A list of decimal values, fake money, student worksheets, calculators, visual aids, and it's giving me a whole lesson here, right? But I feel confident that if the teacher went out there and said, give me a lesson to teach decimals, I now know that I had that prompt in front of it, so it's not going to go out there and grab some crazy lessons or something that's not vetted, right? Anyway, it's going on and on and on, right? So this is pretty cool. So this is something, again, that's the one that I came up with after talking to people. But we can have other ones as well. Now, here's another thing that's interesting. This is a ChatGPT that we created. So it's called the LGL Report Expert. All I needed to do this initially is we do have a developer's account, but this is just a standard ChatGPT Plus account that costs $20 a month. So I created the LGL Report Expert, and ahead of time, I uploaded instructions on how to interpret our different reports. So you could even do that if you have some kind of form internally. I don't know, it could be what kind of form, but you can actually create something that is specialized. So this is where GPTs, while they're trained on the entire internet, a GPT can be narrowed to work with certain areas. So you may say, I need you to use this information because you're an expert on Let's Go Learn reports. So here are the background information on how to interpret these reports. So this is really cool. So you can create your own GPTs for your school district or school. And then once you create it, you can publish it and it becomes public to people. All right. I know I'm throwing a lot out there, so hopefully I'm not overwhelming anyone, but this is a really cool thing to do. All right. I have a few other GPTs. I have a Maxwell, which over here is supposed to be this GPT, the special education expert who looks at things from a special education perspective. I like doing this because sometimes I ask it to do things and I want it to look at it from a special educator lens. You could have something else, maybe from an elementary teacher lens, and so on and so forth. So I have a few different GPTs that I just use for myself. All right, let me go back to the prompt over here. So again, this isn't anything too complicated. You might also on this thing have some of your rules. What can you do? What can you not do? I think it's real important to do this and get this conversation going. All right, and let me show you one more thing. I'm going to go ahead. Okay, so let's say I wanted to interpret one of our Let's Go Learn reports. So our reports, you could download them. We do have an option. So if I open up this report here, this is a student. It's been de-identified, so it only puts the student's first name, no teacher, no date of birth. Everything else is gone. So what I can do is, for instance, I could say, in theory, I could just upload it, right? But you may also have some additional prompts. So you could say, let's see here, manual prompts. You may have some guidelines. So you could have some stuff. I can copy that, paste it into my prompt right here, or use the ones that we have built in. And then I could go ahead and upload the report. And I could say, please evaluate the next skills to work on in numbers and operations strand. Okay, so ideally it's going to go through there and sort of evaluate that report based on the other information I have already in there, and it's looking at it. Okay, I'm not going to necessarily have to do this, but again, I just want to show you how it works in theory. Okay. All right, I know we're almost out of time, so what I want to do is just go back to my slides, and then I want to go ahead and take some questions. Okay, so let me go ahead and just go back up here. All right. So if you have more questions you want to talk to us, you can go ahead and scan that QR code. This is actually some other resources. I thought it's interesting. AI Mastery Blueprint for Education. This is a book by Dr. Smith. He's one of our customers, actually, and he wrote a book on AI. It's pretty interesting. Here's another interesting resource, schoolai.com. This is it's a free resource where students can go and talk to historical figures, Abraham Lincoln, Amelia Earhart. And so they actually can talk to them and they have their knowledge. So these are GPTs that have been turned into historical figures. So you could say, like, Amelia Earhart, how did you start learning to fly? Why were you so interested in it? Whatever you want to do. So this is a fun thing that you could build exercises around. And also another one, this final one is AI in education. This is our playlist on our YouTube channel, so you can go ahead and check that out. We'll be posting other stuff. So lots of stuff coming. All right, I think that's sort of it. Let me go ahead and hopefully that's good. I didn't overwhelm you. You get the recording. You could watch it, rewatch it. I think some parts of it might be good to share with your organization. Again, get everyone working on the same, having the same vocabulary internally. Get your community going. Get some basic rules going. I don't think the first part is very hard to do. It's just setting up, some committees and setting up some people to start working on it. So let's go ahead and take questions from you all. You can go ahead, type it into the webinar chat or the Q&A, and I'll go ahead and start answering them as they come in. Okay, I see the first one. Do you think we need ChatGPT Plus accounts for our teachers or just the regular ones? So that's a good question. You need to require your teachers all to have some registered account. If they just go to an account and it's not registered and they don't have it in their name, technically it's not private, right? So if someone accidentally puts in a name or something information, you're sharing it with ChatGPT, which is not, you don't have a privacy agreement with them. So you need people to sign up. If you're going to use ChatGPT, get an account. They should be registered, and then that way it's private. All right, so that's a good question. New York schools rolled out a plan last month to use AI for personalized instruction. How can we do this? Well, I think what I just showed you is a good way to get started. It's going to start with your teachers who are using it to really extend their ability to personalize their instruction to their kids. So get your intranet going. Start telling people what they can, what they can do. Give them prompts to guide them. That's really important, all right? All right, so how do we teach kids to write if they can have an AI write any homework assignment for them? That's a great question. So I'll give you the first thing, what I've heard some teachers doing, but also some of it's going to change. So one thing you could do, some people have done, is sometimes they've given students flipping it, saying, hey, here's an article, I need you to improve it. Find the errors, make it flow better. So sometimes you may have to change your homework assignments, right? And maybe some of that is going to be done in class, right? Where they have to do it right then and there, so they're not using AI to cheat, to make sure, like, here's an article, it's a little rough, I need you to improve the transitions. So that's one way to do that, is shifting more stuff into the classroom where you're doing it real time and you can't do it at home and cheat, so to speak. Here's another question. hopefully I answered that. But I also think your teachers will have some more examples of what they can do to continue to teach people to write. I'd say, you want to get that committee going, and I'm sure you have some great teachers who are figuring this out and even asking other teachers how to do it. All right, let's go and going to release more products using AI. So right now, our assessment is not AI driven. It's, our brain. We created our precision diagnostic assessment. We are using AI to speed stuff up internally, but we are going to be having AI products coming out this year. And a couple of them is going to be taking our goals that are amazing, right? We find all the gap goals, but turning them into your SMART goals. Actually, let me just show you real quickly how this would be done. If you go to SMART goals, so for instance, this is something you may say, here's how we write our SMART goals. Example 1, 2, 3, 4. By next grading period, student will demonstrate mastery of short vowel at the 75% grade or greater level. So however your SMART goals are, you would paste it into some document like this, and then we're going to be sort of tying that in and allowing you to save your example SMART goals into our system, and then we'll generate SMART goals for you for your district in your district language. So that's going to be one of the first things we released. We're also going to tie some of our grouping tools, because we say sometimes, hey, these kids all need to work on diphthongs. And you may say, well, give me a lesson on that. So that's another thing we're going to do. And we're pretty excited about that, because some of the stuff is a little, it's not too difficult to do. It's not an extremely heavy lift. And so stay tuned for that. Okay, so let me go ahead and go up here. Wow, lots of questions. This is great. How do I encourage kids to think creatively, sorry, and work on deep learning without relying on AI? Oh, yeah, that's an interesting thing. You know what it made me think about? AI is here, but I don't know if you realize, but AI now could beat the best chess champions and Go champions right in the world. But when they combined AI with a human, it was always better. So if you take a human and AI and put it against AI by itself, it beats it. So I would argue that, there's going to be some different activities you need to come up with. Even personally, when I use it, I feel like I come up with an idea and then maybe I'll use ChatGPT to help brainstorm with me. So you may have to come up with activities to help you learn how to do that. And again, I would argue, get your teachers thinking about this. These are all great questions, and they'll be able to really surprise you and come up with some good answers. Okay, so let me see if there's any more questions. How would you position AI positively as we introduce it to our staff? Okay, so last question, I would say, yes, there's a lot of negatives and a lot of scariness, but again, the genie is out of the bottle. So you have to stress that. That's the first thing you would stress to people. And you could use those slides. We'll give you the Google slides, so you can, if you want to copy some of our slides, share that with your team. Hey, the genie's out. We can't go back. But AI is a tool to empower teachers, right? We can never personalize enough. It's so hard to process all the data we have on our students. So we're allowing teachers to do more so that they can free themselves from the administrative burdens they have sometimes. So I would say that's what we're going to do. Give them more time so that they can teach and do what they do very, very well. All right. I think we're out of time. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy this webinar. Again, you'll get the recording, you'll get the slides, you'll get the Google Doc, Google Slides. And so, good luck, and feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to any of us at Let's Go Learn. All right. Thank you so much. Have a good day.